I origins.
I origins, yes, and it's without punctuation. Capital I, yes. Origins, but it's also a pun because on I-E-Y-E, origins. So this is from Mike Cahill, who made Another Earth, which is that kind of sort of indie-inflected science fiction movie nominally, but it's actually a sort of an indie film about guilt, love, and remorse. And the story is that there is another Earth hoves into view at the beginning of the movie, and a tragedy happens that somebody is living with a guilty secret. And then there's a sort of science fiction conceit, which is that we go and repopulate this other Earth. On the other Earth, there are other versions of ourselves who have left different lives. So it's basically using science fiction as a way of talking about, everyday ideas of, if I'd just done that something different, my life would have gone in a different way. So it's like sliding doors, but with spaceships. Okay? So this Origins starts out looking like a kind of an annoying, indie portrait of love at first sight with quirky characters who do quirky things. And it then mutates into something else. Here is a scene from very, very early on in which our central character, played by Michael Pitt, meets an enigmatic, beautiful young girl who he's clearly going to fall in love with, despite the fact that she's wearing a balaclava over her face because it's a fancy dress party. And he asks if he can take a picture of her eye.
What do you believe in?
I'm a scientist. I believe in data.
A scientist?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of scientist?
Molecular biology. I'm most fascinated with the eye.
The eye? The eyes?
The eyes.
Why the eye?
The eye is the one sticking point that religious people use to discredit evolution. They use it as proof of an intelligent designer.
Intelligent designer.
God. I'm looking to end the debate once and for all with clear, clean facts, data points of every stage of evolution.
Why are you working so hard to disprove God?
Disprove? Who proved that God was there in the first place?
So that's Michael Pitt and Astrid Burgess-Frisbee. And
really?
Yes, really.
Okay.
And the third sort of part of this triangle is Britt Marling. So he is a scientist. He is working on a project that attempts to prove that the evolution of the eye is something which happened completely spontaneously and didn't happen due to intelligent design. And this is, funnily enough, this ties into a discussion that you and I have had. And oddly enough, there's almost a Woody Allen-esque thing underneath this. Magic in the Moonlight at the moment, the whole thing is Colin Firth doesn't believe in magic, but if he could suddenly see proof of magic, then he would actually believe in God and the afterlife and all that stuff. And if you've read Legion by William Peter Blatty, there's a lot of discussion about the eyeball theory, exactly what he was saying.
You're not going to mention penguins again, are you?
Well, it all ties into it, but no, I'm not going to go there because, we've been there. We've been there and it wasn't entirely pretty. So what then happens is his relationship with her, she's sort of, funny and intuitive, and she believes in afterlives and reincarnation and spirituality. And he doesn't. He's a scientist, and his lab assistant is played by Britt Marling, and she's also a scientist, but during the course of attempting to trace the evolution of the eye, they start to discover that perhaps there is more to the picture than they had thought. And the interesting thing with the drama is that, in the case of Another Earth, he was using science fiction to address issues of guilt and remorse and loss. In this, he's using kind of tech speak to talk about the existence of God and the possibility of the afterlife and ideas of reincarnation and evolution. But he's doing it all in this kind of laboratory method thing with people sitting down to see whether they can map out the evolution of the eye. And it sounds like a terrible kind of conceit that it's not quite going to work, but it works more than you'd think. One of the things is that the leads manage to deliver the tech speak with enough of a straight face that it will see you over some of the hurdles in the increasingly outlandish plot. By the time we get to the third act, we are off into Frank De Felitta, Audrey Rose territory, and it does all start to just kind of collapse under its own weight. But on the way there are moments in it which do that clever balancing trick of talking about, almost sort of borderline sci-fi tech speak, but actually talking about ideas of life and love and the afterlife and, the existence of God or the non-existence of God, science versus religion, rationality versus faith, which is very much something which is talked about in in Magic in the Moonlight, although that's an altogether more sort of frivolous film. There is also one moment in it, and in the screening I was in, which produced a gasp, a genuine gasp in the audience, not least from me, which does suggest to me that although this isn't a masterpiece, although this only works, I think it's overambitious, I think it takes itself one step too far, that Michael does have a kind of organic understanding of cinema, and I wouldn't be surprised if at some point in the future he doesn't produce something which is really outstanding. This isn't it, but it's full of ideas. It aims very high. It doesn't hit all of its targets, but it's at least trying to do something interesting with that story.